10 records, 1 game, and by the time the final buzzer sounded in Toronto, the story was much bigger than just another Indiana Fever victory. The Fever walked into a hostile road environment and left with a 101-95 win, a 5-game winning streak, historic performances from Clark and Kelsey Mitchell, and a night packed with milestones. But the records were only part of the story. There was physical basketball. There was tension between players. There was a confrontation involving Marina, Mabrey, and Kelsey Mitchell. And, according to the events described in the footage, the atmosphere inside the arena changed dramatically as the game went on. This was supposed to be another stop on a difficult road trip. Instead, it became one of the most memorable nights of the Fever season. Before Clark's milestones started piling up, Kelsey Mitchell was already making history. Mitchell entered the game with an incredible streak behind her. She had scored at least 20 points in 19 consecutive games, tying one of the league's longest scoring streaks. That meant Toronto was standing between her and a chance to own the record by herself. And Mitchell did not waste the opportunity. She attacked from everywhere. Mid-range jumpers, three-pointers, quick drive to the basket. Every time Toronto looked like it might slow her down, Mitchell found another way to score. Then came the moment. Her 20th consecutive game with at least 20 points. The tie was over. Mitchell now stood alone at the top of that streak. But she wasn't finished. During the same game, she also reached another major career milestone by recording her 2,000th career field goal. And when you look at the final numbers, the performance becomes even more impressive. Mitchell scored 29 points in only 24 minutes. That is an incredible amount of production in such limited playing time. This wasn't simply one hot night. It was a continuation of a remarkable stretch in which Mitchell had become one of the most dangerous scorers in the WNBA. Teams knew exactly what was coming. They knew she wanted the ball. They knew Indiana would look for her. And somehow, they still couldn't stop her. That kind of consistency changes the way opponents have to prepare. Because when Mitchell is scoring like this, defenses can't focus all their attention on Clark. And that creates an even bigger problem. The Fever suddenly have multiple players capable of taking over a game. Then there was Clark. Clark continued adding to an already remarkable season, collecting several milestones during the night described in the footage. She scored. She created opportunities for teammates. She continued to push Indiana's offense. And the milestones kept coming. One of the major achievements mentioned was Clark becoming the fastest point guard to reach 700 points in a season. She also continued a streak of 20-point performances. Then came another mark based on her combination of scoring and playmaking. Clark recorded 20 or more points and at least 5 assists for the 6th consecutive game, matching another historic streak. But perhaps the most impressive part was a bigger picture. Clark reached 700 points and 250 assists in the same season, joining an extremely exclusive category that, according to the source material, she had already reached in a previous season. That says something important about her game. Clark is not simply putting up points. She is controlling the offense. She is creating shots. She is forcing defenses to make difficult decisions. If defenders stay close to Indiana's shooters, Clark can attack. If they collapse on her, she can find an open teammate, and that balance is becoming increasingly difficult for opponents to defend. Every game now seems to bring another milestone. But for the Fever, the bigger question isn't just how many records Clark can collect. It's how far this team can go if she and Mitchell continue playing at this level. The biggest records are not always individual. Sometimes they tell the story of a partnership. Clark and Mitchell have become one of the most dangerous backcourts in the league. And in Toronto, they added another historic accomplishment. Both players scored at least 20 points. It was their 16th game of the season accomplishing that together, setting a new mark for a backcourt duo in the source material. Think about what that requires. One great game from one player is impressive, but doing it repeatedly with the same teammate requires chemistry, timing, trust, and the ability to make each other better. Mitchell gives Clark a scoring threat who can punish defenses. Clark gives Mitchell a playmaker capable of finding her in space. When both are scoring, Indiana becomes extremely difficult to contain. The Fever also matched a major franchise win total, adding another milestone to an already historic night. And suddenly, the conversation around Indiana started changing. This is no longer just a team relying on one superstar. This is becoming a complete group. Clark creates. Mitchell scores. Other players step up when opportunities appear. And the team is finding ways to win even when games become physical and emotional. That would become especially important as the tension in Toronto began to rise. Not everything about this game was smooth. The physicality became one of the major talking points. The source material describes hard contact, aggressive screens, and several moments when the Fever appeared frustrated with the level of physical play being allowed. And Marina Mabrey was involved in some of the biggest moments of tension. There was already history between Mabrey and Clark from an earlier incident mentioned in the footage. That history added another layer to this matchup. But this time, the tension wasn't limited to Clark. Kelsey Mitchell also found herself involved. During one sequence, the confrontation escalated between Mitchell and Mabrey. Both players had words. Officials stepped in. Technical fouls were handed out. For a moment, the focus shifted away from the basketball itself. But Indiana's response was important. The Fever did not allow the emotional moments to completely take them out of their game. They kept scoring. They kept moving the ball. And Sophie Cunningham played her part as well. Cunningham finished with 13 points and went a perfect 3-for-3 from three-point range, according to the source material. Every big shot made it harder for Toronto to recover. That's what made Indiana's performance so impressive. The game wasn't always comfortable. It wasn't always clean. But the Fever continued to execute. When the game ended, Indiana had completed the 101-95 victory. Their winning streak had reached 5 games. Records had fallen throughout the night. Mitchell had delivered another huge scoring performance. Clark had added more milestones. The Clark-Mitchell partnership had reached another historic mark. And Indiana had shown that it could win a difficult game on the road. But the atmosphere surrounding the players became another major part of the story. The source footage describes a dramatic reaction from the Toronto crowd during and after the game, including boos directed toward Marina Mabrey after the confrontation, and fans seeking out Caitlin Clark following the final buzzer. Clark spent time with fans and signed autographs. And that image became a fitting ending to an unusual night. A road game had turned into a showcase. A physical matchup had turned into a statement. And Indiana left Toronto with much more than just another win. They left with momentum. They left with confidence. And they left with a growing belief that this team might be entering its most dangerous stretch at exactly the right time. Ten record connected to one incredible night. Kelsey Mitchell continuing one of the greatest scoring stretches of her career. Caitlin Clark continuing to climb through the record books. A historic performance from one of the league's most exciting backcourts. And an Indiana Fever team that is starting to look more complete with every game. That's the biggest takeaway. This isn't only about individual records anymore. It's about what happens when multiple players start performing at their best at the same time. Clark can take over a game. Mitchell can take over a game. And players like Cunningham can punish teams when defenses focus too heavily on the stars. If Indiana can keep that balance, they could become a serious problem for everyone they face. Toronto may have been just another stop on the schedule, but by the end of the night, it felt like something much bigger. A statement had been made. The Fever are winning. Their stars are making history. And if this momentum continues, the rest of the league is going to have to pay attention. What was the biggest moment for you? Kelsey Mitchell's record streak, Caitlin Clark's milestones, or the intense confrontation during the game? Let me know in the comments. And if you enjoyed this video, make sure to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications for more basketball stories, breaking moments, and WNBA coverage. Thanks for watching.